However, the most important thing is not to focus on what went wrong in the past, but to do what is necessary for us all to survive now and into the future.
Each one of us is a cause of global warming, but each of us can make choices to change that. With the things we buy, the electricity we use, the cars we drive, we can make choices to bring our individual carbon emissions to zero.
For consumers, there are guides to identifying which fish is better to eat. Then there are labels which certify its sustainability.
Knowledge is power, and what knowledge gives you is the opportunity to change the way that you do things, to change the way you behave.
What the fuck? Life on Earth is going down and you want to hold me personally accountable? I'm just a slave in this system and you try to convince me I will save the world by shopping? Do you take me for an idiot? We need a radically different view and another vision altogether.
In the world I see, you're stalking out through the damn canyon forest around the ruins of Rockefeller Center. You'll wear leather clothes that will last you the rest of your life. You'll climb the wrist-thick cuts of vines that wrap the Sears Tower. And when you look down, you'll see tiny figures pounding corn, laying strips of venison in the empty carpool lane of some abandoned superhighway.
We need to rethink what sustainability really is. Civilization is not sustainable because it's based on the growth of cities, and nothing can grow forever on a finite planet. Cities also require the importation of resources that comes with certain implications, but it all comes down to how natural selection really works.
It's very interesting. I know we've all been told that natural selection is based on competition and that, it's all just a fierce battle for who can be the meanest and grab the most resources most quickly and exploit the most thoroughly. But short of showing how stupid our discourse is, I can disprove that in one sentence if you give me a couple of semicolons. And that's those creatures who survived in the long run have survived in the long run. Semicolon. You don't survive in the long run by hyper-exploiting your surroundings. Semicolon. You survive in the long run by actually making your habitat better. What a concept.
So, is the world a better place because of you? Is the environment we all share better because you lived and died?
Okay, so anyway, two things happen as soon as you require the importation of resources. One is that you can never be sustainable, which means we could all become the best little natural capitalists in the world, and it doesn't matter. So long as there's this fundamental system in place, it's not going to be sustainable. And the other thing it means is that your way of life must be based on violence, because if you require the importation of resources, trade will never be sufficiently reliable. Because if you require the importation of resources, and the people in the next watershed over aren't going to trade you for it, you're going to take it. Which means we could all become junior bodhisattvas, and it wouldn't matter. The US military would still have to be huge, because how else are they going to get access to our oil that just happens to be under somebody else's land? If they require that oil, they're going to take it. Just by definition, any way of life that's based on the use of non-renewable resources won't last. And I would go a step further, and I would say that any way of life that's based on the hyper-exploitation of renewable resources won't last. So if every year there are fewer salmon returned than the year before, eventually you're going to run out. And everybody knows this except for Michael Sissenwine, who is in charge of one of the divisions of the National Marine Fisheries Services, and his response when learning that 90% of the large fish in the oceans are gone was to say, that's not a problem. We have to ask what level of decline is reasonable or sustainable. So in any case, if every year there are fewer passenger pigeons returned than there were the year before, eventually there will be none. If every year there's fewer old-growth forest, which once wasn't called old-growth forest but was simply called home, then eventually it will be gone.
If civilization is not sustainable, kills the natural world itself and all its inhabitants, we have a choice to make. We could just sit and wait for the crash, but then the people prepared for it will hold all the cards. We could also choose not to wait. But while we rebuild our permaculture, hunter-gatherer societies that does not kill life on Earth slower, but instead improve the environment for all its inhabitants, we have to stop the machinery of civilization from killing us. Because we cannot just retract from the chaos civilization is causing today, and the outlook for the future is getting worse all the time until it stops. We can fantasize about the general public, politicians and other forces suddenly doing good deeds on a massive scale, but until then we need something else. Resistance against injustice and environmental destruction is everywhere. All over the world, people are struggling to save their communities and natural habitats. Levels of engagement vary, from signing petitions and holding signs to the destruction of violent property and guerrilla warfare. But while some people desperately try to save a piece of wilderness or their community, most people are oblivious to the great issues of our time. Why is ethnocide of indigenous communities accepted? Why are polluting machines allowed to continue at our expense? Why are so many humans passive? Why not rising up to stop the ongoing ecocide? Why?